Hello everyone, in this video I'll teach you how to create this beautiful blog using Material UI and React. We will learn the most used Material UI components by creating everything you can need for a blog. This website is also completely mobile responsive. So I'll teach you how easy it is to create a completely responsive blog by using Material UI. So I'm really excited to show you how to do this. So without wasting the time, let's get started. So I have already created a folder for our project MUI blog, but inside this I'll make another folder and call this UI. Now let's go inside UI, and here I will install the React app. So npx create React app, and I'll put a dot here because I want to use the actual folder. So press enter. Now until it installs, let's see how to install Material UI. Before it was materialui.com. Now with version 5 it is MUI.com. So let's get started. And here you have two ways of installing the Material UI. One is with Emotion, which is new, and the last one was styled components. Now with styled components there was some problems with the SAR projects, so that's why they are using Emotion styled. But still you can use styled components also, but in this project I'm going to use Emotion styled. It's really easy and I'll teach you everything, so don't worry. So let's just copy this and inside VS Code just paste it, press enter, so it installs. Now we also need the Material UI icons because it gives us all these beautiful Material UI icons. There are more than 2000 and they have many forms: outlined, rounded, two-tone, sharp, almost everything what you could need in your project. In this project I'm also going to use Material UI icons. So let's see how to install this. For this we just need to say npm install MUI icons material. So let's copy this and inside our terminal just paste it up, press enter, and it will install it. It takes a while and that's it, it's installed. Now let's clear the terminal and start our app so we can see if everything is working as desired. Enter, and it should open the browser for me, and we should see a React icon here. Yes, it is here, so it means everything is working great. Now let's go inside VS Code and make some changes. Now here are some files in public which we don't need in this project, so let's delete them, like this fav icon, not index.html, but logo and manifest and robots.txt. Let's just delete them, move to trash, and also inside the HTML file let's make some changes. So let's delete this icon here and this theme color, and what we don't need is this icon also, manifest JSON, you're not using them anymore, and also there's some text here, some comment. Now it's looking really good, but let's add something else also here. It is Roboto fonts. So Material UI was designed with the Roboto font in mind, so let's use this also in this project. Now go to here, inside index.html, just paste it here and it will be applied inside your project. Now here inside our source we need to delete some files also, like this app.css, test, index.css, logos, and these files. Now let's delete them. Finished. And we get some error because we don't have these imports here anymore. We have deleted them. And let's delete this text also here, and instead of this we will type here hello world. And now inside index, let's just save this one, save, and let's delete some imports here also because we have deleted them. It's like these two here, and also this here, and just save it. Now everything is looking good, so let's go inside browser and see what we got. Yeah, hello world is here. Now let's see how to use Material UI. Inside the documentation you will find everything what you need for your project, but in most cases you'll need this components tab. Inside this you can find out everything related to a website. If it's a button, if it's a button group, or if you need some icons, and whatever you need, you can just click on them and you get the full documentation, and also you can copy paste the code. But the best way to reach them is this search here. Here you can find, for example, if we need a button, we can say button and enter, and here we go. The documentation is available for us, and we can use these examples inside our project. So now just let's copy one of them and use inside our project. I copy this one and paste it here instead of hello world. So here, paste it, save. Now you will see some errors here because we haven't yet imported this button component from Material UI. Now let's import this. So I'll type import, inside curly braces I'll say button from material. So you see there's MUI material, so import this from there. Now let's just save this and see inside browser. Now you can see there's a text, it has a blue color, and there's a button available for us. Now for every component in Material UI there are predefined props. For example, this variant prop, it gives it a styling. For example, now this text, if I want it to be a content styled, so it will give it another style. So let's see what's changed. Now you can see we got a blue background and also some text. Now what if you want to change the color of that? So we type here another prop, color, and we define a color here. I'll say secondary, so it will use secondary color of Material UI, and it's purple. Great. Now let's make some more changes here. For example, I want this not content, but I want this to be outlined. And let's just save this, and you see there's an outline button available for us. Now to find all these APIs for this button or any component, you have to go all the way down inside documentation, and you will find API for that button. If you click here, you will see all their props with its definition. So for example, here I want here give it an start icon, so let's use this one. Now I come here and paste it just here. So now inside this curly braces we can define our icon. So let's import an icon for this. For this we'll go to Material UI icon, and here we can choose any icon we want. So for example, I want Facebook icon, so I'll click on it, and there's the import. So just click on it, it will copy this, and we go inside our project and we can paste it just here. Now let's copy this one and paste it here. So let's save it. Now we'll see what's the difference, and here we go. We got a start icon for this button. Isn't that great? We didn't done any CSS for this and everything is working for us. We can change this, for example, also to end icon, and I just need to type here end icon, save it, and here we go, everything is done for us. So this way we can use any kind of Material UI component inside our project. So let's use something else. For example, I need a title for my project, so I'll say typography. Now typography is used for headings and titles, paragraph, and everything related to text. So now let's copy this one here and copy, and I'll paste it in VS Code. So before this button, I'll paste it here. So now let's import this. To import this, you don't really need to go here and type the name of the component. What we can also do is just delete the last character and type it again. Now if we click here, the VS Code will import this for us. Now let's save this, and everything is successful. If we go inside our browser, we can see some title. Now let's find out some props for this heading. So for this typography, for this we go all the way down here again, and you see API typography, and here we can find which props are available for us. For example, align. So it will align the text center, left, right, justify, and I'll just copy this and go to VS Code, and here we can type, or we can paste it, align. So where should it align our text? I'll say center, save it, and we go back. Look at this, it is already centered for us, so we don't need to design anything or use any kind of CSS. What else we can do? Let's see here. We can say, for example, this interesting prop is component. Now let's see what it does. So if you see, it's also defined here. So it means we are using the component of h2 but the styling of h1. Let's see this inside browser so you'll understand this better. If I inspect this, you can see that we got h2 tag and we have the styling of h1. Now if I go here and change this to div, for example, or anything, paragraph, etc. you want, you can just save this, and if you go back, you can see I inspect this again, so you can see this is a div and no more an h2, but we got the styling of h1. Now in most cases of your projects you won't need this, but it's good to know. So let's just remove this from here. We could also, for example, define a color for our heading. So I'll say color. For example, here I can paste a tomato, so it gives it a tomato color. Now if you go back, and there we go, the coloring is here. Now let's see how to style this component in our own way, for example our own CSS. For that we got a new prop which is called SX. Now it's here, it's the description, but let's use this inside our project. For example, I'll say here SX, and it's equal to double curly braces, and inside this you can define any kind of CSS you like. For example, I want to give this typography a background color, so background, and I'll say it should be red. If we save this and come back here, you'll see the background is red. Now let's make its text white so we can see everything better. So let's remove this one first, and here I'll say color, it should be white. So like this, and we save it, and if you go back, there's a new color. And you can change the size of this. For example, I'll say font size, so font size here I'll say 12 pixels, for example. Now if we go back it's very style, but we are using h1 tag inside this. So this way you can change everything the way you want. So let's learn how to design a layout in Material UI, and after that we will start our project. For this we go to Material UI, and here if we scroll down you see something called layout. Inside this we got the first thing is box. Box is basically a wrapper, so it's an HTML div and nothing else. So let's give it a try. If I go back here, we also don't need these components here, so let's just remove them. And also I don't need this class name, I delete this also. I just type here hello, and let's change these divs with box. For example, box, and let's close the box. Now box is not imported, so let's import this. I'll say box, so save it. And if we go back to our browser, you will see no difference because it's just a wrapper. So let's go to documentation and see what's next. Next is container component. So it says the container centers your content horizontally. What it really does is it gives some padding from left and some padding from right. So let's give it a try also. We go back to VS Code, and here I type container, and it's imported here. And let's just close this. Now let's give it a background color so we can see everything better. I'll say background, and here I'll say tomato. So let's save this. And these warnings are here because we have imported these components and we are not using inside our project. So let's remove them also. I delete them and this one also, and we don't need this icon also, so let's remove them and save it, and the warning is gone. So let's go back to browser, and you can see there's some padding from left and some padding from right, and that's it. Okay, now as next we got grid. If you need a layout for your projects, so you have to use grid, but here you should remember that this grid is not CSS grid but Flexbox, so it uses CSS Flexbox module, and there are many examples which shows you how to use this in your project, but for now I'm not going to try this because later in this project we will use it and I'll explain everything there. So for now let's go to stack. Stack is also used for layout, but it is one-dimensional layout, which means you can use a stack as a column or as a row, so it shows your content horizontally or vertically. Now let's give this a try because we will use this over and over again in this project, and I'll show you how to use Flexbox instead of this, because it's very important to understand Flexbox if you're using React, React Native, and also Material UI. Now let's give it a try. So I'll go back to VS Code, and here we type stack. So let's import this, and we close this here. Now here, instead of hello, I'll make some boxes. So box, I'll close them and I'll say this box 1, and let's just copy this, copy and remove this one, and I'll paste it 3 times. Let's just save this, and here we get box 2 and box 3, and the box is not imported, that's why we get this error. So let's import this also. So I'll say box import. Now it's using MUI system, which we don't need, but instead let's remove this container and type here box. Now the error is gone. So let's go to browser and see the result. If we go back here, now you can see that we got a column layout, and we can change the direction, of course. If I go back here, so I'll say direction, and direction will be a row because it's column. Now let's save this. If we go back, now they are row, and we can define other props also, just like flex. For example, flex grow. Instead of flex grow, we can call here flex 1 or 2, so I'll say flex 2, and here I'll say flex of 3, and let's give it a flex of 2 again, and let's save this. Now if we go back, you see we got some other layout. Now let's give them some background colors so you see the difference. Now if we go back here, instead of a background color here, I'll just copy this one and paste it here inside our box. So I'll leave first box to be tomato color, the second box should be blue, and the third box I'll give it a color of like green. So let's save this, and if we go back to the browser, now you see the difference. The second box is wider than other two boxes. It's a flex of 2, flex of 3, and flex of 2. So let's make some changes. For example, here I want a flex of 1, here I give a flex of 5, and for here I leave it flex of 2. Now if we go back in browser, you see we got another layout. Now we could also give some width instead of flex, but the best way is to use the flex. Now let me show you a trick. If you go back here and scroll all the way down, you find this part which is interactive. Here you can define how should your layout look like. For example, if I need a column, so you can see the result here, you can say flex end, baseline, stretch, or whatever design you want. For example, for now I'll say it should be a row, it gives me a space between, and I don't want this to be stretch, so I'll say center. And you may notice that the code is also changing. So for example, if I give here center, it gives a justify content of center, and if I say flex start, so justify content flex start. So I'll say for now space between, so it gives me a good spacing here. So let's just copy this one and paste it inside VS Code. So I come here and remove this one here and just paste it here. Let's save this. Now as you see, we got a great result without using any kind of CSS. That's really great. So let's go back to documentation. As next, we got image list. Now in this project, I'm not going to use the image list, so I don't want to give it a try right now. So it's your homework. Do it yourself. Just copy paste them or try to understand how everything is working here. Just like this, you can also try other components. For example, the model or whatever you want. And also, if you are interested to learn React Native, Bootstrap, CSS, and awesome backends like Django, Laravel, Node.js, so don't forget to subscribe my channel, because here I'll show you everything from UI to deployment. So you'll learn a lot here. And for now, let's get started and develop this beautiful, awesome UI. Now let's remove all these codes from here and those imports too, because we don't need them anymore. And let's start designing this blog by its Navbar. So for that, I'll go to source folder and here create a new folder and call this components. And inside component, I'll create another folder and call this Navbar, and inside this Navbar folder then we put all our files which is related to this Navbar. This way we can find them very easily. Now let's create our Navbar component. For this, new file, and here I'll say navbar.js, and inside this JS I'll type RFCE and press enter. So I'll get this snippet. If you haven't installed this snippet yet, go to your extensions and install this extension. Now let's just save this, and I'll import this navbar inside my app.js. So I'll say navbar here, it's imported. So let's close it and save it. Now if we go back to browser, we can see the navbars here. Now let's see how to create a navbar with Material UI. For this, we go to Material UI, and here we search for a component called app bar and click on it. In Material UI, they call app bar to navbar. So there are many examples of navbar which you can use for your projects, but for now let's understand how to create a navbar with Material UI. So let's click on the show source and see how it is working. So for app bar we need two components. The first one is app bar and the second toolbar, and inside this app bar and toolbar we can define all other components which we want to show in our navbar. So let's see how to do this. For this, I go back to VS Code, and here I'll import the app bar. So app bar from Material UI, and now it's imported. So let's use this instead of this div. And now let me save this and see the result. So if we go back to browser, we can see a navbar is available for us, but still it's not looking like a navbar. This is because of the toolbar component. So here let's import toolbar and use this also inside the app bar. So paste, and let me close this, and I'll put this text also inside the toolbar and save it. Now if we go back, we can see a beautiful navbars available for us. So for this navbar, I want to show the social media icons in left. In the middle will be our menu, and right here will be a search bar. So as you can imagine, this is a one-dimensional layout, so we can use the stack for this. But let me show you how to do this with Flex. So let's go back to VS Code, and here I'll create a const and call this styled toolbar is equal to, and here we need styled from Material UI. So let's just import this, and inside this we pass the component name. For now I want to add some extra CSS to toolbar, so I'll type here toolbar, and inside this then here we can define our CSS. So I'll say display of this should be flex, and justify the contents space between. So it will be a space between, and let's save this. So let's just copy this and paste it here. So as you see, there's just a text here, so we can see the result yet, but let's instead of this make some boxes here and call them as we want. So social for the first one, and let's copy this and paste it twice. Here will be the menu, and the third one will be our search. So let's save this, and it gives an error because we haven't imported the box yet. So let's import this from Material UI. So let's save this, and if we go back to browser, as you see, we got the result we want: social media, the menu, and the search. So let's start designing the social media first. So for this I need to import some icons. So let's go to Material UI icons, and here search for the icons we want. Now I need one for Facebook, so I click on this, and I'll copy this import from here and go back to VS Code and paste it just here. Now let's use this icon, so I'll copy it. Instead of the social, I'll use that icon, so it is here. Now let's save this. If we go back to browser, we should see the icon. Now let's find out other icons for this. Now the second I need is Instagram, so that's Instagram here. So let's just copy this also, go back and paste it here. And one more I need is the Twitter, so let's go back and find the Twitter also here. So it's Twitter. Now let's copy this and import this inside VS Code. Now as you see, it is taking too much time to import these like that. So let me show you a trick. Now instead of this Facebook icon, I use some curly braces here, and I type here Facebook and remove this Facebook from here, and I'll remove these two also from here. Now let me copy this and here paste it twice. So the first one was Facebook, so Facebook, and here, so we don't need to import every component here line by line. Instead of this, I'll type here Instagram, and as you see, the VS Code will import this for you from Material UI icons. So if I click here, it's imported. Now for Twitter, let's just type the Twitter name, and as you see, it's here. So let's import this, and if we save this and go back to browser, we should see the result here. Now here between these icons, I want to give some margin. So let's see how to do this. Of course, we can apply some margin here for this box, but instead of this, let's use flex here also. So I'll say const, it will be social box, you can call it anything you want. So it's again style, and here I'll need a box component, and let's add some CSS to this box. Now I'll say display, it should be flex. Now instead of margin padding, I'll use the flex functionality, so it will be a gap of, for example, 10. So let's just save this and let's go back to browser. Now we see no difference here because we haven't used this const yet. So let's use this. So I copy this, and instead of this box, I'll just paste it here and save it again. And if we go back, so as you see, there's a beautiful gap between them and they're looking great. Now let's take care of this menu, and for this let's go back to VS Code, and here of course we can use the same game here. So let's just copy this one and use this for menu also. So I'll say instead of social box, it will be just menu box, and it's a box, and display will be flex, but the gap, let's give it a 30, and let's use this. Now instead of this box, I'll paste it here. So here we have got one text, so let's remove this and use some typography here. So the typography, and the first one I'll call home. Now let's copy this 4 more times. So 3, 4. So the first one will be products, the second here portfolio, and then we say something like blog, and the last one will be contact us, just like this. Now let's save this and see how it's looking. Now they got some distance, so let's see what's the problem. And here, as we see, this contact us is out of the menu box, so that's why it got another place. So let's paste it inside the menu box, and if we go back, we should see a nice menu available for us. So let's make them clickable. For this, I go here, and inside typography I'll type SX, and here we say cursor should be a pointer, so this way it looks clickable. So let's see, but as you see, we can, this one is clickable, but the others are not yet clickable. Now the reason is we are not using the CSS here in the other components. Now of course we can just copy this CSS and paste it over and over again, but it's really not a good idea to use the same CSS over and over again. And we could also make a typography, for example style typography, and use it here, but still we had to use style typography many times. So it will be style typography, style typography, style typography, and that's what we don't want. So let me show you another trick how to do this. For this, I'll go here, I'll say const menu items as an array of object, and each object gets a name. So name, the first one is for now the home, and it should also take a link because we will need this also. So link, and for now let's put the slash here, and let's copy this for other names. So I'll say here 2, 3, 4. So here will be products, and it will go to hash, so no link, then portfolio, this will go also to an hash, and then we got contact us, and it will be like hash. We forgot to give some commas here, that's why we get this error. So let's pass some commas here, contact us, and here will be blog, and this also in hash, and let's use the contact us below the blog because this is the last one, and give the comma here and save this. Now it is saved, so let's use this menu items, and I come back here. Instead of all these, let's just remove them, and here I'll just cut this also for now, and I'll paste it again. And now here I'll say curly braces, so menu items, not menu item, so menu items dot map, and for each menu item as item, so do this for me. So I'll say item, and here we'll paste that typography again, and instead of this home we can pass here item dot, it should be a name. So let's just save this, and if we go back to browser, you can see we got the same result and we got this cursor also. it's working here, so we don't need to change the CSS over and over again for each component. So if I go back here and say, for example, instead of this cursor pointer, I may need something like the color. It should be, for example, a tomato, and let's save this. And if we come back, everyone is in tomato color. So this way we can change everything without any problem in just one place. So let's go back and remove this color because I don't need this here. And let's change the color of this app bar to black. So SX, not X, so SX. And here I'll say background, and it should be black. Now if we go back, it's looking great. But these texts are too big. I want to make it a little smaller, so let's give it some CSS also. So inside this typography here, we can pass some font size and give it a 14 pixel. So let's save this, and if we come back, they are looking now much better. Now let's take care of the search box here. So for this, we know how to do this. Now here I'll just copy this one and use it again for search box also. So now instead of menu box, let's type search box, and it should be a gap of, for example, 5 or 4, because we don't need too much gap there. And let's use this now. So instead of this box, let's just paste this here, and inside this, instead of the search, we need to import input base from Material UI. So it's input base and it's imported. So it's a self-closing component, and I'll say here a placeholder of like search. So search dot dot dot, and it should get a color of, for example, white, so we can see everything. Now let's save this and go back to browser. We can't see anything, so let's see what's the problem. And because this color we applied just like this, let's remove this and say SX color. It should be white, and let's save this. We still get some error, no? So if we go back, we can see our beautiful search is here, and we can search for anything we want. The color is white, so the users can see it correctly. Now let's take care of responsiveness of this navbar, because if we decrease the size of the browser, as you see, everything starts looking very bad. And if a user opens this website inside a mobile device, so everything will look like this, which we really don't want. So let's see how to solve this problem. For this, I'll just hide this menu from here, and I'll put an icon here in right side. So if a user clicks this, it opens a right bar. So in this right bar, then we can show all the menu items here, so the user can easily navigate to our website and everything will look still very good. So let's see how to do this. For this, we go back to Material UI, and from here we search for breakpoints, and if you scroll down, you will see something called default breakpoints. So it says each breakpoint is a key matches with a fixed screen width, which is a value, which basically means we can use this key of access, for example, for extra small screens, and it starts from 0 pixel to 600 pixel. And from there we can use this SM key, which is for small screens, and it starts from 600 pixel and ends up to 900 pixel. And like this, for larger screens we can use LG, for extra large XL, and this way we can define different designs for different screen sizes. Let's see how to do this. For this, we'll go back to VS Code, and here what we want hide in a smaller screen says there's menu box. So inside this I'll pass an SX, and I'll say display. Now here, instead of none, flex or block, we'll put another curly braces in which we can define our condition and use those breakpoints. Now here I'll say for extra small screen sizes the display should be none, and also for small screens the display of this should be none. For medium and all other sizes, for example large and extra large, it should be a display of flex. So let's save this, and if we go back, now still we can see that the menu items are here because it's a medium screen. Now if I decrease the size of this browser to small or excess, the display should be none. So let's see, yes, as I get to small screen, the display of this menu is none. Now as it gets hidden, we have no option for our users to navigate in this website. So let's display this icon where a user can click and a right bar opens in which we will show the menu items here. So for this I'll go to Material UI icons, and here I'll search for something called menu, and let's import this menu icon. I'll import this in search bar after the input, so it will be here. Now I'll say here it should be a menu, and we can import this from Material UI icons and not Material UI. So and I'll define a color for this also, and the color will be white, so I'll give it a color and it should be white, so we can see this in this black navbar. And let's save this, and as we go back you can see the menu icons here. But the problem is now if we increase the size of the browser, the menu icons is still here, and that's what you don't want. So let's go back. So here what we can do is just copy this condition here, and I'll paste it inside this menu icon, so comma in the display, but with the difference of in excess and small the display should be block. So here block. Now here also I'll say the display should be block, but in medium sizes and so on it should be display of none. So let's save this. Now if we go back to browser, the menu icon is gone, and if we decrease the size it appears and the menu items are hidden. Perfect. So now let's take care of this right bar. For this we'll go back to Material UI, and here I'll search for a menu component. So there are many examples which you can use for your menus or drop downs, but I need this one. So if someone click, it should appear and disappear. So let's see how to use it. As you see, it's a menu component and it got some menu items. So let's just copy this and use it for our project too. So I'll copy it and I'll come back here. After this style toolbar, I'll put it here. Now let's import this. So as you see, there's no option to import this menu from Material UI, and the reason is because we are using this menu name which is the same name as with this menu icon. So let's give it an alias name, and then we can import this from Material UI. So for this I'll go top here. So here I'll say instead of this menu, use the alias name of menu icon, and then we copy this one and put it here instead of menu. So it will be here instead of menu. We have got menu icon and our menu is also here. Now let's try to import this again, and as you see we can import this now from Material UI. Now it's imported. Now let's import this menu item here also. So I'll say menu item, and it is imported, and let's delete these two from here, and this function also we don't need. So, and let's remove this handle close from here too, and instead of this open, because it's in state, we will make it this later. For now I'll pass here true so we can see everything, and this anchor el, we don't need this also. And if we save it and go back to browser, we should see a menu here. Yes, it's here, but it is in the left side, so let's bring this to the right side. For this we just need to pass the right horizontal here, so I'll say right and save this, and if we go back we can see that it's here. So now let's give some width and height for this and bring all those menu items inside it. For this we go back to VS Code, and here all the way down inside the menu we will make another box and give this box some width and height. So I'll say box, and let's close this one, and we'll say some SX for this box, and it should be a width of like 350 I think, and also some height, and the height of this should be 90% of the screen size. And let's just save this, and inside this box we'll put our menu items. So instead of using this menu item here, we can use our mapping again. So I'll just copy this one from here, and I'll go back inside this box, let's paste it here, and instead of all this typography we'll use this menu item. So let's copy this, I'll remove this also from here. Now I'll give it menu item here, and it takes item.name, which is fine, and also the cursor's pointer, and everything is good. Now let's save this, and as we go back to browser, and as you see a beautiful menu bar is here, and if a user wants, they can navigate inside this website. Of course you have more options here, for example to give this a beautiful CSS, like bring them in center, make them bold, or a more hover color, and etc. You can pass anything you want, but I don't want to waste your time, so let's make the functionality. So if a user clicks here, it should disappear, and if a user click on this icon, it should appear. So for this, let's go back to VS Code, and here we'll use the user set from React hooks. So let's make one, and from here I'll say const, and inside this array I'll say open and set open, and this is equal to use state. So let's import the use state also, and inside this the initial value will be false. Let's save this, and let's use this open inside of our menu. The first thing is here, open. So instead of this true, I'll say open and save this. And if we go back to browser, you can see the menu has disappeared, and the reason is because we are using the initial state as false here. Now let's take care of this on close. So if a user click outside of the box, it should close the menu. Now I'll say here on close, and here I'll use a callback function, so it will set our open to opposite of it. So if the state is true, it will be false. If it is false, it will be true. And also for our menu icon, I'll use the same callback function. So here I'll say on click, and it should use this callback function. I'll just copy this one, I'll say paste it here, and let's just save this. And if we go back to browser, we can then decrease the size of our screen so we can see this icon. So now if we click on it, the menu bar is here. If we click outside, the menu bar disappears, appears, disappear. So perfect. Now let's take care of the hero of this blog. So for this, I'll show here the name of the blog, and below this some information about this blog, and there will be another card where we will show some more information about this blog. So let's see how to do this. Now here I'll make another folder and call this hero, and inside this I'll make our component, so it will be hero.js, and let's make the component, so rfce, and let's save this. Now I'll import this also inside app, so let's go here and import that hero. So hero imported. Let's now just close this. I'll save it, and let's go back to browser and see if everything is working. And as you see, we can't see any message of like hero here, and the reason is because our navbar has no position. And let's give it a position, so I'll say position. The position of this will be static, fixed, or whatever you want. So I'll say it should be a static. If we'll go back, you can see the hero is back here. Great. Now let's design our hero. Now first of all, I'll make a wrapper. Instead of this div, let's make it a box, and it will be a box. Of course, let's import this box, so I'll say import, so it will be box, and it should be from, and this material UI. So after this, we need a title here. So we know that for title we use typography, so let's do this. And inside this typography, I'll call this fashions blog. You can call it anything you want. And here the text should be aligned of center, and also the variant of this, I'll give a variant of h3. And also let's pass some more CSS for font weight, so I'll say font weight, and the font weight of this should be font weight. The font weight of this should be like 900, and let's save this. And if we go back, we can see a beautiful titles here, but I want to change the color of this in red, so let's see how to do this. Now here I'll make a bold tag, so b tag, and inside this I'll put this block here, and now here I'll define a style also, so I can pass the color, and the color of this should be like red. Now let's give it some more curly braces here, and let's save it. And if we go back, now it's red. Great. Now below this fashions blog name, we will give some more information about this website. So I'll copy this one because we need it one more time, and instead of all this bold, I'll give it another text here. So I'll just copy some text. You can use anything you want. So for the variant here, we will use the body 2, and it's body 2, and the font width should be 100, so it's not that thick. Let's go back and see, and as you see, it's looking very nice. And below this, I'll make another box where we will put that image. So let's give some CSS for this background image, and of course it needs a background image, so it will be background image. And for background image, we need the URL function, so that's why let's use the backtick, and I see URL, and inside this we'll put our image, so it will be $, and inside curly braces we can put our import. So for this, I'll go back to our source folder and paste some static images here, and I'll be using the hero image. So let's go here and import this. So it will be import hero image, so hero image from and this will be dot dot and outside of the our folder, and then we got the static, and inside this the image is called hero image. So hero image dot jpg, and let's just put this hero image inside this URL. Perfect. Now let's give it some more styling. So I'll say background repeat, and this should be no repeat. So background repeat, and this will be no repeat. So let's give it a background color also. So for any reason, if we don't get that image, then the color of this background will be black. So, and after this we need the background position. I say the background position, and this should be also center. And the last one, I think we need the background size. So background size, and it will be cover. So cover. Now let's save this and see if everything is working. If we go back, we can't see anything because our image doesn't got any height or width. So let's define some width and height for this. So here I'll give it a height of 600 and a width of, it should be 100%. So width 100%, and let's save this. If we go back, then we can see this image. So let's make them bigger. Now as you see, everything is looking great. So let's make a card here where we put more information about this block. So let's see how to do this. For this, we'll go back here, and inside this box I'll make another box, and this box gets a background of white. So SX, and this will get a background, so it will be white. And also I'll give it some opacity so we can still be able to see the background image, and it will be 0.8. So let's put those messages also here. So I'll say typography, and this will get a variant of like H6 or H4. I think H6 will be better, and the color will be so tomato. And also let's align this center, align center. So let's give the padding also, and it will be a padding of 8. And let's close this. Here I'll type a message like trending styles. So here another typography I'll need, and for this I need a variant of H4, and call this also align, and this will be center. And this we'll put another message, life is boring without fashion, and below this I'll put one more, and it will be typography, and here I'll say variant. So this one will be like a paragraph, so I'll say body 1, and also align this center, and let's give this a padding bottom of, for example, 8 again, and here just some text I'll copy here, so like this, and let's save this and see if everything is working. Now it says H6 is not defined, so let's see what it means. We got H6, of course it's a string, and if we go back, now a card is here. So now the problem is here, it takes a full width of the screen, which we don't want. So let's wrap this inside another div where we will define some width and also some padding from everywhere. Now for this, I'll go here and just wrap this box inside another box, and here. So let's wrap everything inside this box. So it will be from here up to here, now like this. And now let's pass some CSS to this box, and it will be SX, and here I'll say like the width, and the width will be something like 40%. And also what we need is some padding, so let's give it some padding, and it will be 20. Let's save this, and if we go back, and as you see, it's still not center, but everything is looking beautiful. So let's align this also center here. Now for this, I'll go in VS Code, and in the main wrapper, which is this box here, I'll say the display of this should be flex. And also for flex, we have another option which says justify content, and here I'll say center. Now let's save this. Now it's looking beautiful. Now let's see if it's also responsive. Now if I decrease the size of this browser, you can see it's still responsive because we are using flex. But as we get to very small screen, like extra small screens, it doesn't look too good. So let's take care of this problem. Now for this, I'll come back here, and here instead of this weight of 40, I'll wrap this inside curly braces so we can use our condition here. Now I'll say for extra small screens, the width of this should be 100%, and for small screens it should be something like 50%, and for medium, large and extra large it should be a width of 40%, not $%. And also for this padding, let's pass some condition here also. So I'll say if it is extra small screens, so the padding of this should be something like 2 or 3. Now let's give it 3, and for small I'll say like 2 because we don't want much padding in this screens. And here in medium I'll say so exactly as it was, so this will be 20. Now let's save this, and if we go back, you can see it's looking great. And if we increase the size, as you see, everything looks much better in every screen. So now below this hero, I'll show 3 cards in which we will show the main categories of this blog. So let's see how to do this. Now I'll go back to VS Code, and here inside this components folder, I'll create another folder and call this category. So it will be category, and inside this I'll make this category component. So I'll say this categories.js. Now let's create the React component. So RFCE, enter, and let's just save this. And I'll import this also inside our app.js, and here I'll say categories. Yes, I want to import this one, and close it, and let's just save this. And if we go back to browser, we should see the name of categories here. So let's design this. For this, I'll go back to VS Code, and for now let's just close all this. We don't need them anymore. And here instead of this div, I'll use a box. So let's just import the box from Material UI. So import box from Material UI. So Material UI, and also let's just copy this and use it here. And here instead of this categories, I'll use the stack because we need a row where we will show all those cards. You can also use the flex, but I'm going to use the stack for now. Now I'll give it a direction. So here direction, and the direction of this should be like row. and also I'll give it a spacing and a spacing of like 4, and inside this then I'll create 3 boxes, and should be box 1, and let's just copy this one, and box 2, and here will be box 3. So let's save this and see if everything is working. Now it says import the stack, so let's do this. I forgot to import this one. Now stack, save it, and if we go back we see 3 boxes here. Now as we use same CSS for all these boxes, so instead of repeating our CSS, let's make some const of style here. I'll say here const, and it will be a styled box, so styled box, and it will be styled from material UI, not material UI system. So let's import this again, and it will be UI styled. And inside this I'll say it should be a box what we want design, and here we'll pass our CSS. So let's do this. So first thing what we need is height here, so the height should be like 200, and the width of this will be 100%, so 100%, and also here I'll give it a cursor of like pointer, and here we get a warning because we are not using the style box yet. So let's just copy this and paste them instead of these boxes here. So box, 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 style box. So let's make a style typography also for our texts, and here I'll say const styled typography, and this should be styled, and here we need typography. So, and inside this we'll put our CSS. So let's define some margin here, and the first one will be from top, and this should be 25%, and from right it should be a 50 pixel, from bottom it should be like 25% again, and also from left I'll give this a 50 pixel, so like this. And let's put a comma here, and now I'll give it a background color, so background it should be white, and also here opacity, and this should be 0.8. So now instead of this box 1 I'll use the styled typography here, so style typography, and inside this we'll put the category name, and let's align the center, so I'll say align, and this should be center, and also we give it a variant of like h3. Now let's copy this because for others I'll need this also, so I'll just copy this one and paste it here and here. So here will be man, and here it will be woman. Let's just save this, and if we go back you can see the categories are here. Perfect. Now let's give them some background image and some more design. So I'll go back here, and inside this styled box I'll give it a background image. So here I'll say SX, and I'll give it a background image, so background image, and then we use the backticks here, and inside this URL, and then we use the $sign, curly braces, and inside this we will put the images. So let's import those images also. So import, and the first one was kids, so kids image from, and this will be dot slash, so we'll get out of our folder, and here I'll say kids .jpg, and let's just copy this twice for other pictures, and this, and here I'll be using that woman, and here it will be men, so woman, and here we'll use that men. So let's use them. Now I'll copy this one and put it here, and let's copy this also for other boxes. So I'll copy this and put this inside this men, and for woman also. And here this was kids image, so let's use the men image, and also here the woman image. So let's just save this, and if we go back, you can see the images are here, but we need some more design to cover them properly. So now let's go back, and here inside of the style box I'll use more properties of background image. So the first thing will be background repeat, and background repeat, and here it will be no repeat, and also the background position we need background position, and this will be center, and again center, so we get a good centered picture. And also the background size here we need, so background size, it will be cover, so everything is covered, and I think that's it. So let's just save this, and if you go back, now everything is looking great. But let's give this a margin of top here. So I'll go to stack, and here I'll say a margin of top, and this should be margin of top like 5, I think. So let's save this. Perfect. Now the images are looking very good. So let's make this also responsive, because if we decrease the size of the browser, as you see, they are still in row direction and they are not looking good. So let's take care of this and see how to make this responsive. For this, I'll go back to VS Code, and here inside of this direction I'll put another condition, and I'll say for access devices the direction of this will be like column, and for small and so on it should be a direction of row. Also for spacing, let's apply a condition here, and I'll say for access extra small devices, so it will be a spacing of 1. For small devices, something like 2, and for medium, large, and etc., I'll give it a spacing of 4. So let's just save this, and if we go back to browser, now let's decrease size of the browser. Now if we go to access devices, you can see it's a column and everything is still looking good. Now it's completely responsive. Perfect. So now let's make another component for recent posts here, and also a right bar where we will show some more information about this blog. So let's see how to do this. Now here inside components, I'll make another folder and call this like recents, and inside this recents folder I'll make another file and call this recents.js. So let's make this React component and save it. Now let's import this also inside the app.js so we can see everything. Now here I'll say recents, and just import this, close this one, and save it. So the recents is here. Now let's dive in and start designing our recents component. So I'll close this one and this one here also. Now let's import box here instead of these divs. So I'll say box, and let's import this from Material UI. So import box from material UI, and here I'll copy this one and paste it here. And now here inside these boxes I want to use the grid system of material UI. So let's go to material UI, and here we search for grid component, and here you can see there's a good definition of grid and how grid works, and there are many examples you can use for your project. But for now, let's use them in action and see how everything is working. Now for this, I'll go here inside this box. I'll use the grid, so I'll say grid and import this one, and let's close this. Now inside this I'll make another grid which will be a grid item, so let's close this one also. And in grid system, first of all we defined a prop which is called container, so it tells the material UI that this grid is the container of these item grids. So for all other grids we can define the prop of item. So all these item grids will be sized according to this container grid. Now as it is 12 column grid, so for each grid item we can define how many columns should it take in a specific breakpoint. For example, if I copy this one twice and let's save this, and here I'll say in medium sizes this grid should take a column of 6, but for other grid items I will give a grid of 3 for each. For example, 3 here and 3 here, so they are together a 12 column grid. Now let's give them a background color also so we can see everything clearly. Now I'll say also here background, and it should be for this one tomato, and let's just copy this one and use them for others also. So I'll use this here also. Now the color of this one will be blue and this one like green. Now let's give some text here inside this so we can see everything. So I'll say grid 1, or we can type item 1, and here let's copy this and paste this twice. Inside this item 2, and this will be item 3. So let's save this, and if we go back to browser, as you can see we got different sizes for each column. So this is a column of 6, this is 3, and this one is 3. Now this way we can make our grid also responsive. For example, in medium devices we define different sizes or different layout. For XS, for example, a 12 column, so everything will be covered. Let's see an example. For example, here I'll say in XS, or extra small sizes of screens, so it should be a column of 12 and not 6. So let's copy this one and I'll paste this here also, and one more time here. So let's save this. Now if we decrease the size of browser, you can see for each box we got 12 column. Of course we can change this. For example, now let's go to VS Code, and here I'll say this one should be 6 and not 12, and this one should be, for example, 7, or whatever we want. Now let's save this, and if we go back you can see we got a new layout. So this way we can make everything responsive and get a layout as we want. Now let's see how to make everything looking good and responsive for this blog. For this I'll go back here and just remove one of them because I don't need, and here instead of these sizes I'll just remove them also. The background color should be green, it's not a problem, but here I don't need this background color anymore because here we will put a card. So let's go back to Material UI, and from here we search for card, and here there are many cards examples which you can use for almost all of your websites. But let's see how everything is working. So now if I go to source code, you can see there's a card component, and inside this we got some card media because of the media picture, and also the card content where we put our text. Now for our cards, I just need this card media and card content because I don't want to use the white color of this card. So let's just copy this and go back to VS Code, and let's paste this just here. Now let's import the card media. So it's imported, and we need the card content also, so it's imported also. For typography again, of course we need, and for this image I'll use a static image here, so I'll put some curly braces. Now let's import this image, so I'll say import like card image from, so let's go inside of the source folder, and from here we use the static, and here I'll say image 3.jpg. so let's use this card also. Now I'll put it here. Let's save this, and if we go back we should see this card, and yes, it's here, and our other item is also there. Now as you see, the image is not looking good. This is because of this predefined height here. Let's make this 100% and let's save this. Now we can see full image here. So let's design this text also here. So I'll go back, and here for this lizard one I'll say the align of this text should be center, and also for this one the alignment should be center, so align, and this should be center, and here the variant will be just body 1 because I want to give it a small title, and let's give this a color of, for example, tomato, and I need one more typography because I want to show some title here, and this will be not body 1 but H5, which is a little bigger, and the color there will be default, so I'll remove this one from here, and of course we should align the center. It's already aligned center, and now instead of this text let's put some other text, and I'll put this here, and this title will be perfumes instead of lizard. So the rest of this I'll make one more typography also here, and we'll show some more text here. For example, this text I'll copy just here, and from here I'll give this also a body of 2, so it looks like a bigger paragraph, and the text also will be for this the text of secondary, so it will give it a gray color. Now let's save this and see how everything is looking. Now you can see this looking much better. We got perfumes and some text, and also here some small text and some description for this. So let's go back and make this a card. So instead of copy pasting this all the time here, I'll make another component and call this card. So let's make another folder and I'll call this card, and inside this I'll put this card.js component, and let's create one here. So save this, and let's go and copy this one from here, not the grid one, but I'll use this card media and up to card content. So let's just cut it from here, and go back here. Instead of this card we put this, and instead of this div again we use box, and let's just import this, and we need to import the card media also, and content typography like this, and here we should close it as a box. So let's save this one, and that's looking good. Now we don't have this card image, so let's pass this as a prop here instead of a static image, so we can change the images every time. So I'll paste this here, and here we don't need all those imports from here, so let's remove them, and this one also. Great. Now let's import this card here. So I'll say card, so it imports the card for me. Now let's close this, and inside this card I'll say card image, and here we pass our image, our static image, so pass this one. Now if we save this and go back to browser, still we see everything and everything is working. So now we can use this card as many times we want. So let's paste this also here. Now if we go back, we see there's another card and it's looking too big, but let's see how to solve this problem. Now for this we define something else. Now what I want to do is that in every screen I want to show the first post or the recent post should take 12 columns, and the rest of the cards will be shown as a row. So let's see what I mean. Now we go back to VS Code, and I'll remove all this for the first item. So this way the material UI will give this always 12 grid, and for the others I'll define a specified grid. For example, for X's and above, it should give every card a column of 6 like this. Now let's copy this many times so we can see the difference like that, and if we save this and go back to browser, now you can see we got a 12 column here for this, and for each of other ones we got a 6 column, and they are looking in a row. But still everything is not looking good yet, so let's take care of it. Now for this I'll come here, and inside grid from the container, the parent grid, I'll give it a row spacing. So some spaces from the row side, it will be 1, and also column spacing. So here, now this will be like 1 also. Now let's save this one, and if we go back, we can see there's a spacing between each card. Now let's remove this background color also, because we don't need this. So I'll use Alt and remove all this from all the components. So let's use a delete and delete them all like this. So let's save this. Now if we go back, it looks much better. Now here I don't want these cards to be this big because it's looking very ugly, and also I want to show a right bar here in which we give some more information about this block. Now let's see how to do this. For this we go back to VS Code, and from components I'll make another folder and call this like home. Inside this I'll make a file of home.js, so home.js. so let's make it React component, not this one, it will be RAFCE like this, and save it. Now inside this home also we need those box, so let's import this from material UI and save it. And after this, here I'll give it another layout of a row. So for this we need stack here. You can use the flex also, and the direction of this I'll give it a row, so direction of row, and also let's give it some spacing, so spacing of, for example, 2, and let's save this one. And inside this, now instead of importing all these components inside of app bar, let's import them inside home, and then we import the home here, except the navbar will be still here. So let's import the hero here because we want the hero to have all those full screen. Now it's imported, so let's close this. Now below our hero I'll define this container here because I want to give this margin and padding for everything else except this hero. Now let's just copy this one and paste it here. So it's not imported yet, so let's import this also. Container from material UI, and it's here. And below this container I will import those categories here, so this won't be also a full screen, which will look much better, and we will see this in a second. And after this I'll put an HR here, so we get a line break, and it should be HR. Now inside this stack I'll make 2 boxes for our recents and right bar. So box is already imported, so here now for now let's say recents, and or we could also import the recents, yes, and let's close this. And for right bar I'll say here a text of right bar so we can see everything. Now let's save this and see the result, but before this let's go to app, and here let's remove all this, and instead of them I'll import home here, so home, and like this, and let's remove these imports because we don't need them, like that, and save it. Now we got some error because we haven't imported the container, so let's go back and see in home.js. I think here I forgot to import this container, so let's import this and save it. Now if we go back, you can see everything starts looking very good. We got a full screen for the hero and navbar, and here below we got our categories, which is looking very good, and down here we got our first card or recent cards, and also our right bar here. Now it's still not done, so let's make it looking good. Now for this I'll go back here, and here for this stack I'll give it a margin top also, not here, so margin top, and this should be like 8, and also the spacing I'll make it from 2 like 8, and for the recent box let's give it also a flex, and here I'll say the flex of 3, so it will get more place than this right bar here, because here you will give this a flex of 1, so we can divide everything properly. Now let's give this also some padding, so here I'll say SX, and here the padding will be like 18 pixel and 100 pixel, 100 px and 100 px. So let's save this, and if we go back you can see it's looking very nice. We got everything properly, our cards are looking great, and there's a good spacing between them. Perfect. Now everything is looking good for me here, so let's take care of this right bar. Now for this we go to VS Code, and again we need another folder for this one also. So let's make here a folder of right bar, and inside this right bar I'll say right bar.js. Now let's make this a React component, or say E, and let's save this, and we import this instead of this right bar here. Now I'll say here, and it should be a right bar. It's imported. Now let's close this, save it, and as we go back, the right bar is still here. So let's start designing it. For this, I'll go to Material UI, and here we'll search for list component. So let's go inside lists. So there are many list examples, but I'll use this one for this project. Now if we go inside it, there's a list, and this got some item, and this got some avatar, and also list item text. So that's all what we need. And until this typography, and here in list item it ends. So let's just copy this. Now in VS Code, instead of this right bar, I'll paste it here. Now we need to import this list also. So list from Material UI, and we need to close this list also here, but instead of this div I'll use the list. And now here let's remove this div from here. Then we need to import this list item like this, and this avatar also. And here instead of this source we'll put our static image. So let's do this, and let's import this text also. So it's imported. We don't need this react.fragment because I just want to show the description here and no title. So let's just remove this from here, and that's enough for me. So everything is looking good. Now let's import this image also. So here I'll say import, and I'll say post image from outside of our folder in static. We'll say it will be image1.jpg, I think. Now let's use this post image here, save this, and we got some error here because you're using this curly braces twice, and that's what we don't need. I'll just use this once, so it will be one line here. And also let's import this avatar. Okay, so let's import this and save it. Now if we go back to browser, you can see there's a nice list available for us, but in the top of it let's give some title, and here above this list I'll use a box. Let's just close this, and I'll wrap everything inside this box so we can use other components also. Now if I'll go back here, let's import this box. So not MUI system but Material UI, and from here I'll say typography, and this will be like our most popular posts here. And let's give this some styling, so I'll say align, and this should be center. And also let's give it some background color, so PG color, it will be black, and also some color, so the color of white will be good here. Now let's save this, and if we go back you can see a beautiful title is here. Now what else we should do here is let's give it a height of 100% and there will be height of 100% and let's pass a comma here so we don't get this error. And also here I'll use the flex of end because I want to use this image at the end. So let's pass some CSS for this avatar. So I'll say SX and here we'll define a height and width. So the height of this will be like 80 and the width also 80, so the image looks better like this. And also I'll give it a variant here and the variant of this will be square. And let's save this. Now we got a square image which is looking very good. So let's remove this title from here, we don't need this. And this is this primary text here, so let's remove this and save it. If we go back, now everything is looking nice. And I'll just copy this list item twice so we get some more data here. So the first list item, second, third. Now let's import some more images so we can see the difference here. So let's copy paste this 3 times and like this, and this will be image 2 and it will be image 3 and here I'll give it image 4. So for this also post image 1, 2, 3 and 4. And now let's go in bottom and put these images, so it will be image 2 and image 3, image 4, and this one will be the normal image. So let's just save this. If we go back, now it's looking really beautiful. You can of course give some padding here, but for me it's looking good like this. Now let's make here a divider, and below this we'll type about us and put a card here. So let's see how to do this. Now at the end of this list item here I'll import the divider. So let's do this, divider, and this will have a variant. The variant of this is inset, and the component of this I'll give it something like li. And let's close this like this. And below this here I need a typography, so let's copy this one from top because we need the same styling here, and I'll just paste it here. Instead of this most popular, I'll say about us. And below this let's import the card component, and so let's give this a card image and it will be post image 3, and let's save this one. And if we go back, you can see there's a nice post about us, and you can of course change this text from here, but I leave it here just for example. So everything is looking perfect for me. So now let's take care of responsiveness of these two boxes, because if we decrease the size of the browser, as you see, they are looking very bad here, and that's we don't want. So let's see how to do this. Now for this, let's go back to VS Code, and here we start from the reasons. Now for reasons, let's also bring some images here. So I'll go in right bar, and from here copy these imports so we get some images for these posts, then it will look better. Now they are here, so let's use them. The first one will be here, the second one I'll use it like here, and third one will be here, and the fourth one also here. Nice. So now here for this column spacing we'll use some condition, and here I'll say if the screen is XS, so it will be 1, but if the screen is small, so the spacing will be a little bit more, so it's 2, and also for medium I'll use it back to 1. So let's show all the cards and the XS devices 12 columns, so it will take all the screen instead of 6, and for mediums then we'll use the 6. For example, I'll say MD, so for all this XS here I'll use medium, and once more here, so this will be 6, and for the XS and small it should be 12. So let's copy this and paste it in all components. So here, here, and once again here. Now let's save this, and as we go back, and now if we try to decrease the size of the browser, you can see everything is still looking very nice and it's completely responsive. If we go decrease this much more, and still you will get everything in order. So this way you can define your CSS the way you want. But also for this hero image, I'll give it one more property. So if you scroll up, the image will be still there and it will give this website a kind of animation here. Now let's see how to do this. So I'll go to VS Code, and here let's open the hero, and inside this for the background image we'll give another property, and this will be background attachment, and the background attachment of this will be fixed, not like this, so fixed, and let's put a comma here, and I'll save this one. And as we go back, now if you scroll you can see the image is still here and it looks very nice like this. Perfect. So now everything is looking great here. Now let's design our footer here. So it will be a big footer. We will show some information about our website. So for this I'll go back to VS Code, and here the same game, I'll make a new folder, and inside this I'll call this footer, and inside this footer folder I'll make footer.js component, so it will be React component, so RFCE like this, and let's save this. Now let's import this inside app.js. Now below this home I'll import this here, so footer, yeah, import this one, and let's close this, save it, and let's see if it's here. Yes, it's here. So let's go to footer. Now inside footer.js we'll make all our design. So first of all here I'll need a box, so let's import this, and it will be also box. Now in this box I'll pass some CSS, and it will be SX, and I'll give it a background of black, so background, and it should be a black color, and also here I'll give it a height of 300 pixel, and inside this, instead of this footer, let's use the stack because we want some rows here. Now I'll say stack, and let's import this. The direction of this will be, let's put the condition also here now, so we don't need to do this again. So axis, it will be row, and also for medium I'll make this row so we don't get any kind of column design. And here I'll say a padding, and the padding will be like 7, Now let's close this tag, and inside of this I'll make another box, and it will get a flex of 1. So flex, and it will be 1. And here inside this I'll use typography, so let's import typography and close this. So let's give them some CSS, and I'll say color, and the color of this should be white, and let's align this also center, align, and scroll to, so here it will be center, perfect. Now here I'll type contact us, and let's copy this typography one more time, or even twice. So let's here type some address. Now I'll use some dummy text here. You can type your address inside this, and like this, and let's use once more so it looks like an address. Now here this text, and below this box we'll make another one, and it will be box, and this box also get a flex of 1, so there will be a row, and inside this we'll need those typographies again. So let's copy this one and put it here, and here let's say it will be our data policy, so data policy, and let's copy this again, put it 2 times here. Now here I want to show our cookies. Now here of course data safety, so let's do this, and also we need one more box I think, because it should be 3 columns, so let's do this also, and again should be a flex again, so flex of 1. I'll pass this here, and inside this then we will get our all categories here, for example. But here let's make some difference and say like the variant of this something else. So the variant of this will be like body of 2, like this, and here I'll say it should be categories, like that. And also let's show the categories here, so 1, 2, and 3, and the first one is kids, woman, and men, like this. And below this I want to use a box, and also here we will show our social media icons, so let's do this also. So here first of all I need a typography, and I'll call this follow us, and let's remove this variant here. So let's now copy the social media icons from our Navbar. So if I go to Navbar, here we got this social box, and inside this everything is imported. So let's copy this one and bring it here. Now of course we need the styled social box, so let's bring this component, and it's here. Now copy this, and I'll put it here, and let's also bring those imports from here, from icons. So I'll just copy this one and bring it here, so the imports will be here also. Let's save this, and we are missing something, so styled, so let's import this from material UI and here. Now save this, and we got a warning, it says we are not using menu icon. Of course we don't need this here, so let's just save this, And if we go back, you can see a beautiful footers here. Now this one is looking very small, so let's change this. And also we can see our social icons here. Now let's see how to solve this problem. And if I go here, now you see social box, there's no color for them, so let's give it a color, and the color of this should be white. Now if I save this and if we come back, they are here. Now one last thing was to use these categories, and for this the variant of body 2. Now let's just remove the variant here. Let's go back, and it's looking very nice. Perfect. Now what else we can do here? So now let's create a details page. So if a user click on a post, we can show them some details here. Now for this we will need the React router. So first of all, let's install the React router. So here I'll say npm install React router DOM, and let's install this. And also let's create this component also for details page. Now here I'll make another folder and call this details, and inside this details page let's create our component. So it will be details.js, and I'll make this a React component. So let's save this one, and we will go back to app, and here we define all these routes. So now here let's import the browser router. Before we called this router, but in new version it's called browser router. Now let's say browser router, and then we need routes, and also inside every routes we will get some route. So this will come from React router DOM. So here, now let's just save this, and here below this Navbar I'll define our route. So the first will be browser router, and inside this browser router we give some routes. So let's give it a route. Now routes, and inside this routes we define our route. So it will be route, and here we will give this a path, so where it should go. The first one is a home page, so I'll give it just a slash, and the element for this will be our home component. So let's use it here, and it's a home, and then close this and close this route also. So let's copy this route and use it for the second route, which will be our details route. So here for path I'll say details. Now here instead of this home we will use details. So details imported. Now let's remove this home from here, and let's save this. Now let's start our app again. So I'll say npm start, and it should show everything inside browser. Now let's close this one. Now it's loading. So here we go, we got our home page here, and we are using the browse router. So let's design the details page. Now for this, back to VS Code, and inside these details here we'll use first of all some box. So let's import it from Material UI, and let's copy this one and save it here. So now I'll use this box as a wrapper, but inside this box I'll create another box where we will show our image of that post. So here we need the same CSS of like our hero image or card image. Now let's just paste this here, so I don't want to waste your time. Now what basically we do is we give the background image, and also here a background position which is center, background size of cover, and some height here. So let's import this image also. So for this I'll paste some import here also, and this one will come from there. And also inside this title we will need a typography, so let's paste one here also. Now you know how to make typography. What I'm basically doing here is the align of text will be centered, the color will be black, and the variant of this H2. And also here we define a font weight of 900 and a padding of 10, and that's it. Now let's save this. Now below this title let's use a container, because here we can show all other contents. So here let's import the container, so it will be container, and let's import it from Material UI, and then we close this. Now inside container I'll give this an HR tag here, so we get a good line. And below this HR let's use the stack, so I'll paste some code here. Now basically what I'm doing here is I'll say a direction, and extra small sizes it should be column, and in medium sizes the direction of this stack will be row. Also for spacing, an extra small spacing of 1, small spacing of 2, and for medium I'll give it a spacing of 8. Now let's close this one. So here it will be stack, and inside this stack we will show the details of that post. So let's paste some code here, and it will be a box also, and I'll give it a flex of 3 and also some padding here, and nothing special. Then we have a typography which gets a margin of 4, and the text of this typography will be center, and the color will be gray, and the variant of this, as it's a paragraph, so it will be a body 1, and we will give this a font weight of like 900. So now let's close this box also, and below this let's show an image, so we get some more image here for our users. Now let's use this card media, and we have to import this also. So it's a component of image, a height of 300 pixel, and for image we use this post image, so let's import this also. So I'll just copy and import here, so it will be there. Now it's here, and below this let's give some more details. So I'll use another typography, text of center, variant of 4, and margin top of 2. Let's save this one, and below this typography we will show all details about this post. So again it's a typography with a margin of 4 and color of gray, variant body of 1, and some font weight of 900, and nothing special. Let's save this and see if everything is working as we want. Now I'll save this, and we go back here. Now here I'll say slash, and I'll put the details here, and as you see we get some error, and the reason is here inside app details. And yes, we are importing these details from Material UI icons and not our component, which is of course wrong. So let's remove this one, and let's import these details again, but this time from our components folder and not Material UI icons. So let's save this, and we get an error here, and we forgot to import the typography, so let's import this one also. Now here I say typography and import this, and let's save this, and if we go back, as you see we get some beautiful details page here. Now also I want to show our right bar here, that's why I used a stack. So let's go back and see how to do this. Now here below this box I'll make another box to use the flex functionality, and give it a flex of 1. So flex 1, and inside this box I'll import our right bar again. So the right bar is imported. Now let's save this, and if we go back, perfect. Now everything is looking very beautiful and just as a blog should look like. And for you as homework, show the related posts just here below this. With that being said, so now let's take care of one more option here, because if we go to cards, we can't click them to get inside this details page. So let's see how to do this. And for this we'll go to VS Code, and from here inside this card.js, and here what I'll do is that I'll wrap all the card inside this link. Now let's do this. I'll copy this one and paste it here below the content, and inside this we will give this a prop of href where we define our link. So here I'll paste this link, the static link here. Of course you should use the real routing by giving them the IDs to show the real post, but for now, for this example, I think it's enough. So let's just save this, and if we go back to browser, you can see they got a link, but I don't want these underlines here, so let's remove this. Now here I'll pass an SX for link, and I'll say the text decoration of this should be like none, so we get no decoration. And if you go back, it's looking nice. So if any user clicks on this post, they will be redirected to the details page of this post. So like this. Now it's looking perfect. And that's it, guys. We are done for this project. And if you want to learn how to code more blogs like this, like shops, social media, YouTube, etc., don't forget to subscribe my channel, because here I'll teach you everything about React, React Native, Laravel, Django, and Node.js. Hello everyone. In this video, I'll teach you how to create this beautiful blog using Material UI and React. We will learn the most used Material UI components. Hello everyone. In this video, I'll teach you how to create this beautiful blog using Material UI and React. We will learn the most used Material UI components by creating everything you can need for a blog. This website is also completely mobile responsive. So I'll teach you how easy it is to create a completely responsive blog by using Material UI. So I'm really excited to show you how to do this. So without wasting the time, let's get started.